Okay, so here is our speed cartography representation of the world. Everybody instantly recognizes all these things that I'm drawing on the board. Use your imagination. It's sort of like a Rorschach test. Here's the world. North America, South America, Africa, Asia. You'll notice that I am almost allergic to PowerPoint presentations. And if you haven't figured this out already, I hate PowerPoint. It's boring to teach from. I think it's even more boring to listen to. Am I right? Yeah. And you tend to move too quickly through the slides. I always say, too many facts, not enough story on a PowerPoint presentation. And so I like to do things this way. One of the drawbacks is that you have to live with stuff like this. But, even this can be a little bit of fun. So I never forget, here's a lesson to all of the aspiring grad students here. Many of you are just starting out and learning to give public presentations and things like that for the first time. One of the reasons that convicted me early on that PowerPoint is a very double-edged sword. You got to watch it. I went to my first conference back in 1997 as a grad student. It's my first year in grad school. Had a paper at this conference. I was so excited. I was really nervous too. I almost threw up right before I gave the presentation. But I managed to hold it all down, and I got out there and I gave the presentation. But the very first session I attended in that conference, I mean, this is a big deal. You go to these conferences and you see these people whose papers you've all been reading. It's very intimidating. You're like, oh my goodness, it's this person. Oh, look, it's that person. And you're kind of overwhelmed. And the first session I go into, there's about 5 speakers. And the very first speaker gets up there, and I think he was a Japanese gentleman. He was reading his thing from an index card, and just like that staccato. I was very nervous. And so, that I was like, maybe my talk isn't going to be too bad after all. Maybe it'll be well received. And of course, they all had PowerPoints. Back then, you printed it out on slide. There was none of this ubiquitous projection that we have now. But when the last talk of that session was the best talk I had heard the entire conference, before or after. And it was this Canadian professor. He had just gotten off the plane. He comes in. He's rushing in, and he gets up to his overhead projector, and he says, hey, we got to researching, and we're doing some propagation measurements, and it turns out that, the topic was kind of different than what the abstract we submitted was on. In fact, we weren't really getting results, so I was going to cancel it completely, he said. He said, but you know what, I got this call on my cell phone from the grad student as soon as I got off the plane, and he had some interesting results, so he described them to me, so I'll go ahead and share them with you. So he just takes, everybody else had PowerPoint slides, he just takes a clear sheet of plastic, puts it up on the overhead, and some overhead pens, and just starts drawing, right? That was the best talk I heard in that entire conference, because he was teaching, and you actually learned something, and he was engaging, and he was, talking about all the stuff that his graduate students were doing, and that PowerPoint is good, and there are going to be a couple points in this class where I actually have to go to PowerPoint because it involves a lot of visual stuff, like when we talk about video encoding. I had a couple lectures in on that. You can't hardly do that without PowerPoint, but overall, I think PowerPoint is one of these things that is way, way overused. It's almost used as a crutch instead of a supplement, which is what it should be. For some of these Georgia Tech PhD defenses, I would really like to turn some of them into defenses. 5 minutes up into the presentation, I go up to their laptop, I yank the VGA cord out, and I say, keep going. Let's see it come out. So